What's up guys, Lennon here with soundandpatternsmusic.com, giving you practical music industry advice for the artist that wants to be heard. So not too long ago, I got to do an interview with my buddy Aaron Steele. And Aaron is an awesome drummer. He's played with Portugal the Man, Chrome Sparks. He's out with Jose James right now, depending on when you're watching this. The dude is just a killer player, killer guy. And there's actually a long form interview that's about 25 minutes long. You can check that out in the card here. But otherwise, I thought there was some really poignant things that he had to say about relationships in the industry and how they can actually grow your career. You guys know I talk about this a lot. So let's go to the interview now. Is there a mix of, for you, not only like your personal relationships that you've built, but also you feel like you've branded yourself the way that you put yourself out there? Do you feel like that plays a part in the gigs that you get?
Yeah, it is relationships. It's a lot of friends. And the way I kind of went about it, honestly, was I basically only played music that I liked. Whenever I did anything else, it kind of bummed me out. So I just stopped doing that. But when I played music that I liked and I just kept doing that, and like it didn't matter what genre it was or who it was, or I would go to shows and start hanging out with people that I really enjoyed their music. There's a guy named Kyle Patrick, right? There's an old story, but do you remember that band, the Click Five? They were like
that sounds really familiar.
Yeah, they were like a boy band from like, I don't know, the early aughts. He was the lead singer. Had bumped into him at Rockwood Music Hall a bunch. Like this is like very early in my career, right? And we were just like hanging out, kind of was just like, man, like, I think I'm gonna be your drummer, you know, like, you know. And then he was like, I mean, whatever, man, you know. And then he actually had a show, and he, after like a long time of hanging out, he was like, hey man, actually, do you want to play drums? He had never heard me play drums, you know.
That's awesome.
It was like, hey, come in, let's see if it works. And the fact that I was prepared, you know, I had like my skills set in order to actually do the gig, like it wasn't all talk, was a really important thing. I think it is relationships, but I also think that I have kind of made myself somebody who can like come in really last minute and then like crush it, you know?
Just quickly, like when did you sort of start kind of getting into this world? How many years ago?
Man, about like 10 years ago.
What would you say to somebody who's sort of starting now? Like if they're some dude's out there that's got, you know, that's totally a player, totally a cool person, you know, trying to do a similar thing, but maybe lives in like a smaller market. Where would you say that they could like get started?
Honestly, I say keep making music with the people who you think are amazing. I really think that. And then like that, like I grew up in New York City, music was all around me. You know, some of like my favorite bands, they kind of come from like nowhere, you know?
Right.
And for example, there's that band Bad Bad Not Good, right? That band is incredible. Like they have made records with like Ghostface Killah. The way that they did it was by, they just did their thing and weren't worried about what other people were thinking about what they were doing, you know? They just did it. For the longest time, even though I grew up in New York and all this stuff, people told me that I didn't know what I was doing. They told me I was not good enough. I dropped out of school and I quit music for a year. It was like a whole thing. And then after a while, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just like, you know, just do things that I like. And it ended up like snowballing. And then people that I met ended up becoming kind of popular. I mean, I was still playing with them before they were popular. It was just like a thing that happened, you know? And I think that it has to be organic, or else, you know, if you're just chasing like the next thing, I think that's kind of I don't think that's like necessarily a good thing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally, yeah. And I talk a lot about like, even if you're trying to be an artist, you know, everybody's talking about, well, try to get these licensing deals or try to do this and that. And those things come, but it comes with relationships, right?
Yes,
and so
100%. 100%.